Hi, my name is Charlie Brose, and I'm welcoming you to the first episode of Aimless TV. Today I am joined by two wonderful guests from the Twin Cities Paranormal Society. This is Angela and Jenny. How you doing? Thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having us. Yeah,
why don't you tell us a little bit about the Twin Cities Paranormal Society, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Twin Cities Paranormal Society was founded in 2006 by Michelle Johnson and Lisa Hottinger. They are unfortunately no longer part of the team because they've moved on to other things, more spiritual work actually for Michelle, but we do still have their guidance. So we've been a team for 11 years in the Twin Cities.
Okay.
And we started out with about 100 members.
Wow.
At one point at our height, and right now we're currently at 11 members today.
Okay.
And we're a nonprofit organization in the Twin Cities, and we do residential and business home investigations.
Okay. And you don't charge the clients that you go out to do investigations for, is that correct?
Never. Yep, we are strictly nonprofit. We're volunteers. We do accept donations from time to time if people
to kind of
feel
keep
so
things
inclined. Right, yeah, and we all pay membership dues as well on our team.
And the membership dues, that helps cover costs for equipment and that type of thing?
Right.
Okay, that's great. Tell us a little bit about the methodology you guys use when you start an investigation.
Well, our first step is contact with the client.
Okay.
So, and I just want to preface that our main focus with our cases is our client.
Okay.
We're not a thrill-seeking group. That's very important to point out. So when a client contacts us, it can be a couple different ways. Sometimes they'll just reach out via email. They might reach out on our website.
Okay.
We are part of TAPS, which is the Atlantic Paranormal Society, which is a national group, and we're very proud to be affiliated with them.
That's the group that is behind the series. It was Ghost Hunters.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So once in a while, we do receive cases from TAPS as well.
Okay, and they'll refer it from a local contact here?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll first make contact with the client, establish an initial interview about what the activity is in the home and what's been going on, the history of what's been going on. And then from there, we'll decide if we want to do an investigation, or sometimes we'll go right to a home clearing as well.
Okay.
So that's our first step. We like to meet with the homeowners in person. That's really important, to be in their environment, in their home, just because we want to see what's going on firsthand, not only for validation to look for what's, what we need to look out for in our investigation, but also for safety of our investigators.
Okay.
That's important too. We need to make sure the locations we're going to are safe and that we're all going to be fine when we're doing an investigation. We never do investigations on our own or a prelim on our own.
Okay. How big is a crew that you take in generally to an investigation?
It depends upon the size of the home,
Okay.
or where we're investigating, the size of the building, but generally anywhere between 3 and 5 people.
Okay.
Right.
You don't want to inundate the place with too many people. It contaminates what you're doing.
Right?
Okay.
Absolutely.
That sounds great. What kind of technology do you use when you're doing your investigations? What kind of tools are the tools of the trade for what
Right.
you do?
Well, there's so many, and with technology just booming constantly, there's always the latest and greatest thing. So our standards are a voice recorder, digital voice recorder. We have infrared cameras that we usually bring to each investigation. A mag light flashlight, believe it or not, is one of our most useful tools that we like to have. We like EMF detectors. Those are very helpful in determining baseline grid readings just for the location we're at.
Okay. And can you explain a little more about the EMF detectors? What is it about electromagnetic fields that helps you in detecting if there's a spirit or some type of entity in an area?
We believe that spirits give off electromagnetic fields when they try to manifest.
Okay.
So when you see a spike in an EMF, that often indicates that something that's trying to manifest itself, it's trying to draw energy and create its own so that it can be seen or heard.
Okay.
But oftentimes if you're in a residential home and you're in a basement, there's something called a fear cage that you may have heard of on several shows.
Sure.
But what it is it's natural electronic sources that just emit electromagnetic fields that can make you feel things like paranoia, hallucinations.
So if you have like a line that's overloaded, perhaps that, I'm thinking in properties where you have appliances plugged into like a 220 volt, it creates a higher energy field.
Yeah, and that can create things even like nausea.
No.
Okay.
It's amazing the things that you can feel and sense just from that electromagnetic field.
And so that goes in a way to help your homeowners if they feel something in a certain area. You can say, well, it's not necessarily a spirit, but you might want to call an electrician.
Right, yeah, or if you're doing laundry and you always feel like someone's watching you, that's a big thing when you're doing laundry for some reason in the basement and you just feel like someone's right behind you. Oftentimes it's just because you have so much electrical right behind you in that electric box.
Okay.
So oftentimes we try to debunk things like that, with claims of, feeling watched or terrified in the basement. Well, you have a lot of electricity coming off that might be affecting you physically and mentally. So
Well, I feel there's somebody watching me when I do laundry, but I am in a laundromat, so.
yeah, that might be a little different.
So those are the basic tools of the trade. Brady, one of your co-leaders there, has sent me a photo of the laser grid. How is that used? How do you employ that? Is that just to see if there's something that you can't necessarily see walking or moving across your area?
Right, that's basically it. And a lot of people think that when you have the laser grid up, that you're going to see the dots disappear when something comes, but really what you're looking for is for those lights to light up because something's coming in front of view. So all of a sudden you're going to see, oh, there's another object that's in here.
Okay, so it's a shifting of the lights that you're looking for.
Right, yep.
Okay, not necessarily them being eliminated, but.
Right, we're actually looking to see, it'll highlight something more.
Okay.
If you
Very cool.
can imagine that, yeah.
What types of spirits have you guys encountered in either your group or personally? I mean, have you, the general, like a residual haunt or a intelligent being? What do you usually find when you do these investigations?
It varies. I mean, it runs the gamut. You can have any of those different types. What's the thing that, usually from my past experiences, it's been more intelligent than anything else. Yeah.
So you try to interact with them then when you do that, when you encounter intelligent hauntings? And the outcomes of your investigations, what are you trying, what do the homeowners want you to do? Do they want you to rid them of the spirit or help understand what's happening there? Is that kind of a combination of what you want them to do for you?
Yeah, it can vary. I mean, that's the thing. The client, usually when we do that initial preliminary meeting, that's what we establish. What do you want? What do you want out of this investigation? Do you want validation that you're not crazy? That's one of the main things people say. Can you just tell me I'm not crazy and that this is really happening? And then also, would you like us to help move the spirit on? And we absolutely can help with that as well. And if we can't do it, we'll find someone who can.
But do you find some homeowners that at least once they understand the spirit are going, cool, I can live with them?
Yeah. Some want them
as
there,
long as they're not trying to force me out.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's fun. What forms do the spirits appear to you in? How do they manifest themselves? Is it noise? Is it the EVPs? Is it actual physical form? How do they usually present themselves?
Gosh, it's so different. For each case, it's so different. I mean, you can talk about what you just saw at the Palmer House Hotel.
Yep. I saw a more physical apparition. It wasn't like a full body, but it was, all I can really describe it as is energy, kind of like heat waves coming off a car in the summertime.
okay.
It just had kind of glimmered by, and But it was definitely something.
It was actually in motion, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And it moved fast, too. It was really,
okay.
I've never seen anything before, so that was really
But
different.
do some of them just do they just make noise?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Depends on how strong they are, I think, too. I
Okay.
think spirits can be, they have different levels of strength, and when they're trying to manifest, like if it gets really cold in the room, you can tell something is about to happen.
about to
and,
happen, okay.
Right, and they're trying to show themselves. I think, I should say, we think from our evidence, it's easier for spirits to be heard audibly on
Okay.
an EVP through that frequency, because most of our evidence that we capture is EVP.
Okay, so that is the biggest form of evidence that you were
That we
able to
have.
capture. Have you had EVPs debunked before?
Yes.
Okay.
That comes up a lot when we're doing an investigation. So let's say Jenny and I are setting up and it's dead silent, and all of a sudden my stomach growls. And we're like, that's a demon, you know? It's like, that's, no. We have to say, okay, that was my stomach. And
No, it's a reminder to stop at Taco Bell on the way to the investigation.
yeah.
Or not, perhaps.
Avoid the Taco Bell before an investigation.
Yes. But it's just interesting how often little noises like that can be debunked.
Okay.
You know, it's just like or if one of us go,
Yeah.
That's
So you have to
not
be
that,
very
somebody-
aware of every little noise that you make. And
Can investigations, I mean, you guys are usually in a property for how many hours?
about
when you're-
4 to 5.
Okay. Do you ever hit an investigation where you're just bored? Where absolutely nothing happens, and you know, I've heard it said, well, you can't get a ghost to come out on cue.
No, when we've had investigations where nothing has happened.
Okay.
And it's been really quiet, and it's late at night, and it's 1 or 2 in the morning, and
Okay.
you know, it's.
But do you ever repeat investigations like that because the homeowner is so adamant that something's going on?
That's happened once or twice before. It's not as common, but you know, we always preface our investigations with the fact that, look, you are here 24/7. You have access to your house all the time. You know it inside and out. We're here for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
And the chances of us capturing something in those 4 or 5 hours, you know, it's not the greatest. It'd be great if we could leave a camera running for 2 weeks and
Right.
catch something. So it's difficult, and it's difficult to tell a homeowner, sorry, we didn't find any evidence, because their home very well could be haunted,
Okay.
but we just don't find any evidence in the time that we were there.
Okay. Not sure if you can add anything to the, but if a property is destroyed that they felt there was a haunting or spiritual activity, do you have any assumptions or thoughts of what happens to that spirit? Do they move on, or do they stay in that location regardless of whether the building is there or not?
that's a hard question to answer. I think that's kind of part of what we're trying to figure out in doing paranormal investigations.
Because you've mentioned that you think the spirits kind of have a free will.
Yep, I believe so.
Many of them do.
Mm-hmm.
So if the building that they knew that they've been part of for so long goes away, do they find their peace, or do they try to move on somewhere else?
I would hope that they could try to find peace. It may be possible that they are still stuck with the building materials. They could still be attached to that and kind of follow that where that goes. But hopefully that change in environment might kind of cue them into, maybe it's time for me
Because
to...
if they've become attached to, can they become attached to the person that lives there or to the building itself? Have you ever found a spirit that is attached to a person more than a property?
Yes, that happens a lot, actually. And in specific cases where the spirit's attached to a person, we go in and do an investigation and the homeowner's not there. So the activity is not there. So
Right.
there are some circumstances where we prefer the homeowner to be present because they're actually driving the activity.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool because it becomes that the spirit is attached to them.
Right.
Do you find that then the spirit is a relative or, an ancestor to that? Or is it just that they found something about that individual that they wanted to be a part of?
If it's a personal haunting, I think usually it's a relative.
Okay.
I would safely say that it's someone that you were close with, a former spouse or close relative.
Aunt Betty wanted her brooch back.
Where is that? Give it to me. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. And can the spirits follow us from house to house?
I
So-
believe so.
Yeah, I
We've
think so.
some team members have experienced that firsthand.
Okay. And so as investigators, you've experienced actually a spirit following you home.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a lost puppy that you have to kind of dispatch on their way.
Right. It's just that we give them attention. Suddenly we're here just to talk to you. So when we leave, they're like, wait a minute, I'm not done talking yet. So they want to follow us. And
Okay.
that can be difficult sometimes, but we as investigators have to set boundaries as well.
Right.
When we leave an investigation site, usually, I know Jenny and I will just say, I respect you. Thank you for giving us your time, but here's where our time ends. And
Okay.
we're going to go to our homes and you stay here, move on when it's time.
Have you found any hauntings where it's because the property was built where maybe a deceased person had been buried? Is that something that has occurred? That you've disturbed their resting place?
Oh,
I don't think personally.
yeah, personally,
Nothing.
but that
Okay.
seems very likely.
But is it
could-
something that has been documented previously that you're aware of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And, there's a lot of times too where you'll see a show on TV where a psychic leads them to some place in the basement and they find bones or something and it's like, oh, there was someone buried there. And so it does happen. We just don't have any personal experiences, but it absolutely happens.
Okay. Why do the rooms turn icy cold?
We believe that is the spirit manifesting energy. So when you're taking a lot of energy out of something, you're robbing it of all that it has. And when you're taking all the energy out of a room, you're robbing it of the warmth that it has.
And so it depends on the strength of the entity you're dealing with
Right.
and in how they manifest when they pull that energy.
And there's some spirits that can make hot spots too.
Yeah.
Believe it or
Okay,
not,
so
we've
there
heard
is
of
an
that too.
opposite reaction as well?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. There is mostly it's cold though because it's easier to take that energy.
Well, is it because the heat is the energy in the room?
I believe so.
Okay. Is it more of like a kinetic type energy then that occurs?
I think that would make most sense.
Do we find that children and animals are more sensitive to spiritual activity?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I think
So, in some of the private homes you go to then, were you called because like a child is disturbed by what's going on?
Yes, and that's always
frequently.
our number one priority. If we ever get a case where there's a child involved, we
You
tend to drop everything else and focus on that case because
you want to
It's-
protect the children
Right.
from
Absolutely.
anything that may be harmful to them.
right.
And can you relate a case where you've had something like that, where you've had a child and mom and dad may be oblivious to what's going on, but the child keeps seeing a big evil man in his bedroom at night or something like that?
Yeah, we've had a recent one where we actually didn't do an investigation, and oftentimes when children are involved, we don't do an investigation. We sometimes will go right to the clearing because we don't want to disturb anything any more than it has.
Okay.
So-
And when you talk about a clearing, what type of procedure is that? What are you going into the house to do?
We're
Is it prayer? Is it sage? How do you accomplish a clearing of a property?
It's both. We do, actually, what we should do as a team normally is focus on whatever the client believes.
Okay.
So a lot of times if we have a Christian client, we'll incorporate frankincense and myrrh in our sage blend when we're doing the clearing. So it just kind of, it's helping to point to whatever their beliefs are as well. We want to respect that with each client.
So, what if you an agnostic person? I mean, what kind of procedure? I mean, do you still use the sage as a cleansing, but you may not bring in the spiritual part of it for them?
We may not incorporate them. Oftentimes, Brady, Janess, and I will do a clearing, and we do a meditation with the homeowners at the end, if they so choose. And that just helps them part with the spirit, clear everything that's been going on, and find peace in what we've just done as well.
Okay.
So, but with children, oftentimes, it's hard because they just say whatever they're thinking. And that's the great thing about children. But
it's their honesty that actually helps you approach the case.
right, yeah. So when we're dealing cases with children, a lot of times, they're just going to tell their parents, hey, there's a man standing in my room. And then, so once we have cases like that, Brady and I just did a case where we had to go out and help clear the spirit out, and the child actually helped us. It was really cool.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
And I bet they thought it was kind of fun to be able to participate in that.
They had control in the situation, and I think that's important for children to know that, they have some say in what's going on.
Okay.
And they can protect their home too. It's not just these adults coming in and doing everything. They have.
And so they feel an extra sense of relief then if it does go away?
Yeah, we just try to
Because
help.
they helped.
Yeah, we empower them to help to know that they can do this too.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
In so much as getting the spiritual side, have you ever had to go beyond yourselves to clear a house? Bring in an exorcist or even just someone from the church to do an extra blessing on a property. How do they accept that? Because we're always told that by the Roman Church that exorcisms are rare.
Right. Yeah.
But you told me previously that you've had an exorcism of a property recently. And you felt it was more of a demonic force.
Right. When we hear the word demonic, we immediately refer it out because we're not equipped to deal with that. We're scientific investigators, so when we hear of a demonic type of haunting, our guard goes up and we're like, okay, first of all, we're not qualified. And we'll be the first persons to say that. We want to help these people, so we're going to get someone qualified. So that's when we call Christian ministries.
Okay.
And then we will refer them. In the case that we just did a few months ago, we had to do that. Gentleman was having trouble, and he said, I think there's something going on that's demonic. So we said, you know what, let's bring our contact in and see what he can do. And we worked together with him, and we were able to really, I feel, help this guy.
Relieve his tensions and remove what he thought was there.
Right. So we don't actually ever deal with an exorcism, but we will definitely help facilitate what needs to happen to get there.
And when you're trying to help a spirit move on, what are you trying to tell them? Are you telling them go to the light, go home? What are you trying to get them to do?
We try to get them to be at peace.
Okay.
That's what I would say is our main goal in trying to get a spirit just to be at peace with being over.
It's not denominationally specific.
No, I think that's up to God. If you're crossing over to heaven and hell, that's definitely not what we do. What we do as that spiritual component is just to help that spirit be at peace and get to where they need to go. But we certainly wouldn't have the power to help them get there.
You're not saying go to heaven.
No. Yeah.
Because many different religions have different views of what you're doing.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No, our job is just to help them be at peace with where they are.
And you talked about there's the technical side, but there's also the spiritual side to what you do. You have a mix of different types of people that do in your group that do the investigating. You have like hardcore, skeptics. They just go in with the equipment and do that. But you two approach it from a spiritual angle. And how does that work for you? I mean, how do you approach the job then as a spiritual person?
I think when I go into investigation, I do my own personal kind of ceremony to protect myself when I'm on an investigation. But when I'm dealing with each client, I leave it there. I never bring it into what I'm doing.
Sure.
I look at it from a scientific viewpoint. But I mean, Jenny and I both know if we're dealing with the haunting, there's probably something spiritual going on. That's why we're there. So,
Okay.
But as a team, we'd always approach that just from a non-denominational, non-spiritual point of view. We're here to prove the science that
Right.
something's going on.
Okay.
But I don't know about you, but me personally, I take my beliefs and it helps me sort through what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Okay, and you talked a little earlier about a spirit following you home, and you with your spirituality of your own, have ways of repelling them or having them going back to where they belong. What about the scientific members of the group? Do they have anything follow them home and go, oh geez, now what do I do with it?
Well, I've had that happen once, where one of our team members had something follow him home from the Palmer house,
Okay.
of all places, he believes. And so and then from there on out, he kind of set boundaries after each
Okay.
investigation and kind of had a talk with the spirits. But what happened is we had to have the spiritual healer on our team at the time come out and do a clearing on his home.
On his home, okay, so he
So-
could rid himself of what had followed him back.
Right. Yeah, and I know a lot of our investigators have families. So you have a whole other component at home, like their families are, I often wonder what they think after their loved one comes back from an investigation. Like, are they nervous that they brought something home? And so.
Do any of your members have come from haunted properties?
I think most of
Yeah.
us do.
Yeah.
Is that what spurs most of you folks to get involved? I mean, personally, between you two, what spurred you to get involved in helping other people with spirits and ghosts and all that type of thing?
I think for myself, I definitely had experiences growing up. The house that I lived in, I think there's definitely something there, and going to sleep every night and being terrified. I think that's a very common experience for a lot of people, and it made me curious as to kind of what I was experiencing, but also just kind of letting other people know, like, you're not alone in what you're going
Okay.
through, and you're not crazy. Things are actually happening. So
And you had similar issue then, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've grown up not necessarily in haunted houses, but just with a lot of different experiences through all my life.
Okay.
I was the kid that was watching Unsolved Mysteries on the couch when I was 8, just totally enthralled with what was going on, just knowing that there's so much more out there
Okay.
than meets the eye. And I wanted to find answers. And that's what I still try to do. I try to find answers.
Well, I want to thank you two for being with me here today. We got to wrap it up for this segment. I would like you to come back and we're going to talk about some other experiences you've had.
Great.
I'm Charlie Brose. We'll see you next time.
Ha 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 ha!